Hey, welcome to the Opteon Chill Zone. I'm Don Gillis. We're going to be condensing the facts with me. And before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to Christian Piles to start us off with a couple good information. And so after that, I'll take control and we'll go from there. Christian?
Sounds great. Hey, thanks a lot, everybody, for showing up, and thanks to Don. Really, Don is known for just going around the country and really helping people understand the basic facts about what's going on, and so that they're able to explain it. And really, we're getting into a time of the year where it's getting to be super important that you are able to explain some of these things, right? Because the better you're able to explain it, the more, number one, the more comfortable you are speaking about it, but also the more teaching that you can do and more of an expert your customers can rely on you to be. So we're really excited about this program, and really excited that Don Gillis is going to be the one who's going to be condensing the facts. Now, when we go to the next slide, there's a little bit of information I wanted to share real quick. So real quick, this informal training session, again, it is informal. So if you guys do have questions, we may not be able to take it live, like verbally, right? Don't just shout it out, but put it in the chat box. Send in all your questions. This is for you guys to help you guys understand just one simple topic on each one. So each training session is going to be about one topic. As you'll see in a little bit, this topic today is going to be about flammability, and Don's going to step right through it and try to explain everything that you guys are going to need to know. We're going to do this each month. Okay, so this is going to be something you're going to see an email that goes out to you. And this is one of those things where if you get value out of this and you think someone else from your company should be aware of this, then send it over to them, right? Send them the email, the email that we send you as well, right? So spread the word, let it get out there. Next thing, we are a big fan of surveys. So you're going to see us asking some poll questions. Usually we're going to put it up at the top of the prezo, because it's not a marketing thing. It's, we really want to make sure that we are seeing what you guys are seeing. What's happening in the field right now. We want to make sure that what we hear from you guys, not just the questions you're asking, but the state of your workday. We do want to know more about that. So please feel free to respond. We're going to get the answers. We may even talk about them a little bit, but we're going to be sending out little surveys throughout the event itself. Now, last part on here I want to go over is that each month we're going to select one of you to receive a pizza party. And this is for really cool reasons. Number one, everybody loves pizza, but this pizza is going to go to like your branch. Okay, so if you're in Biloxi, Mississippi, and you're attending, if your name is selected, then we send 3 pizzas and soft drinks to your branch. We'll call you up. We'll connect with you personally to make sure that we've got the right date, right address, where you like your pizza from, what kind of pizzas you want. Right, we'll go all through it, but we'll make sure that we've got an organized pizza party going to your branch. We're also going to send you a box of swag, right? Some pens, koozies, screwdrivers, whatever, that kind of thing. You can put them at the counter. You can throw them at your customers, whatever you want to do with them. But then we're also going to send you an Opteon polo shirt that's for your size, for you only. So we'll send you one polo shirt just for you, and then a pizza party with swag for the rest of the branch. So we're doing this because we really do want you to enjoy this. We do want you to spread the word. We do want you to be happy to be here for multiple reasons, but we want to incentivize you to participate, right? So we do really like giving out food, and specifically eating food. But I don't know, I guess that's pretty much it, Don. So it's informal, we're a big fan of surveys, and there's gonna be a pizza party that we're gonna select one attendee, and we'll connect with them offline to get a pizza party going. That's
Great.
it, Don.
All right, you had me at pizza. Now I kind of wish I was listening in. By the way, Chris, let's talk about that for a quick second. And we want to keep this light, folks. What is your go-to food when you're on the road? What is something you always look on the menu, Chris, and you have to have? Or try?
I gotta tell you, I spent a lot of time just down south, right? So these it's these oysters that they have over in New Orleans. It's I don't know how they do it, right? But they bake it, where they put Parmesan cheese on there and some salsa. Man, I get that everywhere I go. That is the best. That is my favorite by far. But New Orleans does it best, but you can get them in Wisconsin, like I don't know if you eat oysters in Wisconsin, but that's it. Oh, you know what, Don? But you did remind me real quick, we do have that first set of poll questions. So can we send out the first poll question real quick? So guys, as you look at this, we're just looking to find out, has your branch sold any A2L tools? Is this something that your customers are coming in and showing on? Please select one or the other. Got a couple questions here, but this is the first one.
All right, very good. And while you're at it, throw in your favorite go-to food like Chris told us about, okay? And we'll follow up on that conversation later, Chris. So today, as Chris said, it's all about flammability, and some of this you've probably already seen. I'm going to share some stuff with you. Again, we want to keep this light, informative, and just to help us get more boots on the ground, to you have a better conversation at your counter. So talking about mildly flammable refrigerants here, if you're buying our product, hopefully you are, we're going to have the 454 series. A is going to be for refrigeration. C as in Charlie is also going to be refrigeration. The difference here is going to be the GWP. As you saw, the 454A, that's going to be around 238. So that's going to be in anything lower than 300 pounds. On the right-hand side, on the 454C, that will be lower than any 150 pounds of refrigerant. Okay, it's actually 148. So that'll be the cutoff there is a 200 pound and less or more. And obviously 454B, the hot topic right now, that's going to be for your air conditioning mode. So 454B or A, B, and C. Okay. All right. Are A2L refrigerants new to us? No, they're not. Okay. And here's what we know. 9 of every 10 cars today have 1234YF in it, if you didn't know that. If you bought a window unit, a P-TEC unit, a dehumidifier, a portable system in the last 6 or 7 years, you probably already had R32 around it, which is an A2L refrigerant. Okay, just so you know. And again, when I say 9 out of every 10 cars today have 1234YF in it, that's not just in the US, that's in the world. So we're already around us, and we may not know it, or we may know it. So just so you know. And here's some of those, I'm going to do a little name drop in here. Some of those automobiles are out there. I couldn't put all of them on there, but here's what I share in class a lot of times. Why do you think the industry, the auto industry, is so far ahead of us in like HVAC? And here's what I found out is they've been making cars with much more flammable solvents underneath the hood of a car for years. So this 1234YF that we use in the auto was easy peasy for them. You know, that it's not near as flammable as like gasoline and even brake fluid and some of those things. So that's why they're so far ahead. We're just now getting on. And when we talk about A2L refrigerants, keep in mind Europe and Asia has been using these for almost 10 years now. It's new to the States for the most part, but not in the world. So let's talk about how this stuff gets classification. First of all, this is done by a third party. Now, we do have these labs up at the headquarters in Wilmington, but obviously we want to test our things before they go to the third party to make sure we don't get egg on our face, okay? And it's done by the American Society for Testing, or the ASTM, and it's referred to as ASHRAE Standard 34. After they test it, they send it to ASHRAE, and ASHRAE says, you know, they do toxicity and they do flammability. And if it is flammable, how flammable is it? So that's how that sets up. Once they're done testing it, the third party, they send the results to ASHRAE Standard 34, and that's what it's called, all right? First of all, first and foremost, there is no propane in A2L refrigerants. I'm sure you're all grinning right now. I don't know how many times I hear this. I'm sure you have. I know it's getting better, but just so you know, in case people are still asking about it, there is no propane in A2L refrigerants. Yay. Okay, so how are they classified? Here before A2Ls or 2Ls, we had a class 1, okay, does not propagate a flame. We had a 2, have lower flammability and faster flame propagation. Examples there would be like 152A. And then we have a class 3, refrigerants like propane, butane, have a higher flammability and faster flame propagation, okay? And then the new kid on the block is the 2L. A fun fact, if you were to draw an imaginary line down through the center of these 2Ls and the 2s, you would find that on the 2Ls on down, 2L and 1, it's less than 10 centimeters per second, where on the other hand, the 2 and the 3 are greater than 10 centimeters per second. And that's going to be important as we move along to understand that, because what you're going to see here is the 2Ls are actually closer to what we're already using than anything else out there. So I want to make that that note very clear to you, okay? Because some people train they train flammable is flammable is flammable, and that's not the case at all. All right, so here's what this looks like on the testing. On the left-hand side of the screen, we have our increasing flammability. The higher the number, the higher the flammability. From left to right, we have toxicity. That's the letter before the number. A is good, B is bad. B2 would be like ammonia. And just to show you how new this classification 2L is, for years before this 2L classification was here, ammonia was always just a B2. Well, when they saw this results of the two A2Ls, they said, well, if that's a 2L, then we're a 2L. So now they are classified as a B2L. Fun fact there for you. So Don, how does this work? How do they test this stuff? So I was actually in these labs, like a lot of my coworkers are, and the gentleman that runs this is named Patrick. And here's what they do. They have a glass flask, if you will, or a tube, all right? And they've got a rubber stop on that, and they're adding just enough air and just enough concentration of whatever they're testing into that glass flask, okay? They have a magnetic stirring mechanism at the bottom. They let it stir for approximately 15 seconds, and then in order to have a fire, we have to have an igniter, right? An electrode. They ignite that. If it stays within this V, or this 90 degree, if you will, it's not flammable. In fact, this is actually 410A, if you just so you know, all right? If it breaks that 90, even by a little bit, then it's flammable. It's just a matter of how flammable it is. So let's look at the first slide here. This is our class 1, okay? As I talked about earlier, so when people say, hey, what we're using is not flammable, and now we're going these A2Ls that are flammable, just know this, that little bit of flicker you see when you cut open your line sets, which, by the way, I think most of you know, I spent 25 years in a truck of my 33 years career. I'm still a licensed journeyman. So with that little flicker you see when you open that line set up and you get your torch too close, you're starting to braze in, that's residual refrigerant. We think it's oil, but it's not. It's residual refrigerant, okay? So just be clear on this, okay? This is what 2L looks. Now they're scratching their head because they just broke that line, okay, or that V as in Victor. And it was so close to an A1, it couldn't be a 2. In fact, if I had a picture for a 2, let's say it's approximately closely and almost identically to the 9 and 3 o'clock position on the clock, okay? That's how much different it is. And this is what the A3 looks like. And obviously, we know what propane or R290 is going to do. We already know that. We use it in our gas grills. I don't know how many furnaces I've converted over to LP through the years. So we already know. And it's the same flammability. The difference is where it really gets tricky for R290 is not only is it the same flammability, but there's no stench in it. In other words, it doesn't smell. So because by putting that stench in there, it puts impurities in there that you can't use as a refrigerant. So a little fun fact for you there. Now let's look at this ignition test here we have. On the left-hand side, we have A2L. It's Opteon 454C, which is going to be for low and medium temp, as I said earlier. And we've added 1,200 grams of 454C. We've added 500 grams of R290. And let me bring a circle around the flame for the 454C because it's hard to see. But did you see how much more grams of the 454C we added with the same ignition on the right-hand side? And again, it's a no-brainer. We know what 290 is going to do. We use it in our gas grill. We only have to hit that little clicker, which doesn't do much of a spark to get that fire started. And a lot of us do that every night, some on the weekends and what have you. So much, much less higher charge over here with less ignition. Okay. Here's another test that's done, and this is done by a third party, ASTM D3065, and this measures the flame projection of aerosols. And an open flame ignition source, we're going to be using a candle in this picture, and the liquid spray is used to create a refrigerant-rich region. The only thing I don't like about this slide is the animated part of it that was showing it first is aiming the wrong direction. But at the top of the picture, you have R32, okay? It's a candle. They're spraying out of this R32 nozzle, and you can see it barely affects the standing pilot or the R32 candle. On the bottom, okay, you can see what happens when I click the picture. R32, barely anything. R290, on the other hand, throws the flame like we know our R290 will do, actually in the burners, in the chambers when we light a gas furnace. Same concept, same thing. And I'm not here to beat R290 up, but I want to make sure we walk away with the understanding that this is apples and oranges when it comes to flammability, okay? Want you to respect it. There's going to be some safety nets in there with sensors and those kind of things, but I don't want anyone to fear this, all right? Okay, this is used to measure MIEs of flammability. This is another test done by the ASTM. This is E582. And this measures the MIEs, or the minimum ignition energy. And think of it as a force, a strike. You know, does it take me walking across a carpet and touching a doorknob, getting static electricity and lights, or will it take an actual torch to light it up, okay? It's high energy electrical ignition source. So you can see the 1234YF, we've got 1,000 millijoules there, okay? On the right-hand side, we have R32 with 100 millijoules. And at the bottom, we have R290 with just 1 millijoule. You can see a big difference. So you put the 1234YF together and you put the R32 together with a different ratio, okay, 68 or 70 to 30. Let's just say that for the sake of not arguing, okay? That is what 454B is, ironically. In fact, that's what all the 454 series is. The 454A, 454B, and 454 series are the same components, R32 and 1234YF. It's just in a different ratio. It's kind of like, how low do you want to go? Okay, how low do you want that evaporator temperature, or that SST, that suction saturation temperature, okay? And if you're ever on Jeopardy and care to share it, 32 is just slightly more flammable than 1234YF is. Okay. This is a surface igniter like you would find in a furnace. It's a great example here. So at the 1234YF, we've got the surface igniter here, all right? And we have on the right-hand side, R290. Now this cylinder here was filled with the refrigerant, okay? It's simulating electric heater or a hot surface igniter in a furnace. And you can see what happens over here on the R290. As it starts to glow, we start to light. Over here, on the other hand, the 1234YF, not so much. So just to give you an idea, again, I'm not trying to beat up R290, but I do want you to walk away and ease the pain or ease the concerns of the contractors, because as Chris mentioned earlier, I travel extensively. For those of you that know me, and I got a few emails that people are going to be tuning in that I know, 36, 40 weeks here, and I'm telling you, 60% of the class walks away with telling me that they thought there was propane in it before they came in the room. So spread the word. So here's something they did. Some of this obviously is not going to be on a job site, but I want you to look at the left-hand side, the substance, and then the millijoules, the MIE, again, minimum ignition energy. How much force or strike, think of a match, does it take, spark, to light this up? So they've got methane here. Now, the higher the number this is, the less flammable it is. Methane is at 0.47. Propane, little less, 0.25, more flammable. When it comes to 454B, it's approximately 300. Gasoline, a 0.2. And then diesel fuel is a little higher at 2.0. These are the things they actually tested, believe it or not us, but a third party, for A2L ignition sources. They use a cigarette insertion, barbecue lighter, a plug-in receptacle, which is real world, a light switch. I don't know if you'd find a hand mixer on the job site, but you may, a cordless drill, and then some type of friction spark, a hair dryer. Now, I want you to think about the hair dryer, really, and all joking aside, and the hand mixer as something that would be in the home. So if you go to hit that sensor and it detects any refrigerant on a ducted system or a split system, it's going to energize G, which is your fan mode, as we all know, on the furnace or the air handler. So it is going to separate that and make it less concentration than it was. It's going to go off at 20% of LFL, by the way, and until it hits LFL, it's not even flammable. So just be aware of that, okay? Hot place insertion, and then again, a space heater insertion. This is from AHRAE, the final report, and it shows you everything I just showed you on a little smaller scale. But I used the scale earlier that I showed you just so you could see it a little clearer. This one's a little smaller, but this is actually comes from AHRAE's final report, number 8017. And there you're showing like a grinder, the grinding stone and the flint here, and it did not ignite. Okay, but what makes 454 flammable? If it doesn't have propane in it, then why is it flammable? Well, here's why it's flammable. When 410A, we'll start with comfort cooling on this particular session we're doing here today. It has half of R32, which we know is an A2L, but the other half of it's R125. And if you didn't know, R32 by nature runs a little warmer inside the compressor, so there's a little more friction there, which is going to cause higher. It's a temperature pressure relationship, as we talk about all the time. So it's going to run a little higher pressure, a little higher temperature, and that discharge line is going to be a little hotter. So they took, years ago, they added R125 in there, and R125 you find in fire extinguishers. So not only does it keep the discharge line cool, which is good for the system, obviously, it also removes the oxygen if a flame should break out that causes it not to be able to light. If we don't have oxygen, we don't have a fire, right? So that's what it is. And what we did now with 454B, first of all, look at the GWP drop, 2088 to 466. That's a huge difference. I mean, just that alone in that transfer from 410A to 454B, if you haven't heard yet, is going to be a 78% reduction of global warming potential in the future, okay? So we removed what was keeping the discharge line cool and keeping it from being non-flammable. We removed all this GWP down to 466. And if you haven't heard, the EPA capped it at 700 maximum for comfort cooling, okay? And we circled back around for that with that refrigerant that's in 9 of every 10 cars today, that 1234F, which by the way has a GWP of 4 compared to R125, which looks about 1,400 with a different ratio. We bumped the 32 up here to 68 from 50. So you get the gist of it, okay? And you saw the flame, how close it was to what we're already using. I'm really trying to remove any fear or the fear mongering that I've seen early in the years. And I've been teaching A2Ls for almost 5 years now in my prior position. So let's look at the acronyms. Flammability limits, LFL, lower flame limit, UFL, upper flame limit. If it has to be within those, the lower and upper, or it will not ignite. And the LFL is really, really important, okay? The higher that number is, the better it is, or less flammable it is, okay? Minimum ignition energy, I always describe it as this. It's the energy it takes to spark or to start something, a flammable gas or an air mixture. And I keep it very simple in the classroom, but that's what the MIE is, minimum ignition energy. Burning velocity, this, by the way, is what identifies the L in the A2L, okay? The L stands for low flame propagation or low front propagates. I just say spread. It's at the speed it goes, okay, the velocity. But the L is literally, in layman's terms, talking about the velocity. And when it comes to 454B, it's like 5.2 centimeters, as I mentioned earlier. So, you know, I'm not making fun of it, but most of us can walk faster than that, okay? And then HOC is the heat of combustion. Make no mistakes about it. You know, if you add enough heat to 410A or R22, it will combust, okay? So heat of combustion is not really something new to us, all right? And this is just an overlook of all these things put together. Again, I'm not trying to beat propane up, but just comparison only because it's a flammable refrigerant. And there's not a whole lot of them out there. So we have 2 L's and we have 3s. Basically, that's it, okay? Lower flammability, the LFL, the higher that number is, the less flammable it is, okay? The less risk. We have 38 compared to 297. When it comes to MIE, 100 to 300 on the millijoules as opposed to 0.25, okay? The higher that number is, the less the risk. Here's your burning velocity, centimeters per second, as I talked about, 5.2 compared to 46. And we know what propane is going to do. We've all been around propane in one way or the other. Heat of combustion, all right, the lower that number is, the less the risk, 10.1 compared to 46.3. So, and here is just a visual to give you what that looks like. Down here in the blue box on the A2Ls, if we're using 454B, R454B, or XL41, we're good to go as long as we stay in here. Remember I showed you how they test this? They're adding the right amount of concentration compared to the ratio of air and then the ignition, okay? So until it hits that 297, okay? It's not even flammable. And the sweet spot of any refrigerant is dead center right here. A3s, propane specifically, you can see there's a larger window there. It doesn't take a lot of, so it's a lot less concentration of R290 compared to 454B, if that makes sense. We don't need as much concentration to air to make it flammable, all right? Now here's a velocity test that was just done, the video recently, I'd say in the last 3 months. What you're gonna see is here, the tube on the right-hand side is exactly how we test this. And this is the velocity burning test. And this is at our labs, but again, this is done by a third party. You're gonna see 404A on the left-hand side and A1. You're gonna see 454A in the center, and you're gonna see propane on the right. Now that's at the video speed there is at 50%. Now watch this closely. This is going to be at 100% now. You got to watch closely. A1 on the left, A2L's in the middle, A3's on the right. You see how slow that's traveling right there? It wasn't a whole lot of difference of what we actually are using now. Not that much of a difference. It will be new. We're going to have new things that we need to talk about as far as what used to be good practice is now going to be required, and we'll do that on another session. Last but not least, I want to share this with you, some of the resources. If you don't know, the team is working hard behind the scenes to set up a training page on Opteon.com. We've already got it started. We're hoping to have some on-demand training and some webinars put on there. So someplace where you can send your customers to and get all in one place. There's already Dr. Chuck videos there. Check up with Dr. Chuck. I really encourage you to check into that. There also, if you want to sign up for the A2L Refrigerant News, you can get a link on there. And then, of course, we always have our tech support line here, Tech to Tech, or 866-433-8324, and Tech to Tech at Chemours.com. All right. Follow our YouTube page, Opteon.com YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, okay, to stay in tune, all right? And that's all I have for you. We're going to open it up to questions, and hopefully there was some already put in the box. But Chris, seeing anything out there?
There's actually
for that matter.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I think you did a great job going through the information. Flammability is probably the biggest boogeyman of this whole transition. So yeah, I think you've done a good job. And if we are recording this too, so if anyone's got questions that are coming up, or if they want to go back and check out this this video again, please do. I do have a question from a gentleman named Matthew McKinney, and he's got actually a couple questions, but it's all kind of tied into that first poll question that we tossed up there. He says, what regulation defines what an A2L tool is? Do you have any specific examples of a tool that is legally not allowed to be used within A2L systems? His issue is that he sees HVAC techs replacing tools, but they may not legally need to be replaced. And so it's kind of like number one, I guess the question, Don, is, are there laws that are outlining what tools can and cannot be used? But then number two, do you have some examples of what tools would need to or would not need to be traded out?
Yeah, and just so you know, Matt's a good friend of mine. We go back a long ways, and he's very knowledgeable. So I appreciate the question, Matt. So I don't claim to be a tool expert, okay? But here's what I'll say about your trucks, because I've heard the horror stories too. Matt and I've talked once in a while. I've heard horror stories of companies going out being feared so much that they're going out and retooling their whole trucks for thousands of dollars. That's not needed. In fact, I've been really, really pleased and pleasantly surprised that the tool manufacturers, the Appions, the Field Piece, whatever tool you sell, the Navax that have been doing dual training with us, they've all been brutally honest, telling everybody, this doesn't mean you need to replace everything. Here's what we've been doing for everyone is, and I see it done by everybody out there, the tool manufacturers. Go to their website. They're all doing a really good job of having an A2L button on there. Hit that button on there. It drops down into the tools, the vacuum pumps, and the recovery machines. And really, it's the electrical stuff is what the concern is. Now, at this time, so hand tools are kind of a no-brainer, but there are some cases like piercing the empty tank of the A2L that they want you to use a spark-free tool or a punch, if you will. But I remember 5-6 years ago, like I said, at my prior job, you don't know what you don't know. We were actually showing brass tools because we weren't even sure how this was going to go out. So as far as tools, now what I will say on that, as I say in every training, is moving forward, only buy A2L compliant tools. And they've been out for almost 2 years now. And trust me, Chris can vouch for this. If you go to an expo, everyone's boasting about A2L tools. You can see their banners. We have A2L tools. And it's not that they changed anything in some cases. They just put the A2L or made them compliant, tested them, and they're the same thing. Now, moving forward, there is some changes that are going to be made. Recovery machines, there's talk from different manufacturers. They'll be going from an AC to a DC motor. Because of that 10-foot recommended work area, there's talk of going to 10-foot cords to some of that equipment to get you out of that area. And right now, that's not required. And if you care to look that up, it's in UL 2-40 and it's in the HH, Annex HH, if you care to look that up. And again, it's recommended right now. It's not required. But I look at that almost as if, hey, that's business as usual, really. The difference between is when you see utility companies out on the corner with yellow tape or the orange cones, that's required by the state. Right now, it's recommended. They're looking for things like splice cords, kind of like if you're on a commercial job, which I've been on many of them when OSHA comes around, okay? Look for any possibility of a spark or anything flammable that's outside that's not usual. Again, some of the things we'll get into in new episodes will be like removing residual refrigerant from the line sets after you open them up, which has always been good practice, but now be required, okay? So great question. I don't have a list of tools or anything like that or how they're classified, Matt, but we've been directing them to the tool manufacturer itself, but I'm not sure what that's called or what those specs entail of being A2L classified, but I appreciate the question.
That's a lot of good information. That's awesome, Don. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
While we were talking, a few more questions came in, specifically two from our good friend named Kevin. I think it's Genero. I'm not sure. I might have butchered that one up. But he had a quick question. Number one was, how many pounds of A2L refrigerant can a contractor carry in their work vehicle?
That's a great question. And I'm not sure that's been identified on that completely yet. I know max, here's what I know. They did not decrease the amount of anything you carry on your truck, tanks, whatever, lower than 440 pounds. It's always been, the material of trades has always been 440 pounds. That includes your acetylene. So even if you're carrying 2 of those or 3 of those or whatever you have on your truck, or if you have a propane heater, if you use up north like I am, that you're using, that includes that 440. They did not drop that to 400 or 350 just because of A2L refrigerants. So that moving forward, I don't know if there's an actual top off on that. I'll have to get back with them on that as far as maximum A2L refrigerants. But as I know right now, I know nothing, including acetylene, there's no quantity of that can be on your truck. So it's a great question. We'll have to get an answer for them, Chris, if there is. I don't know of anything, but I don't want to exclude out that there might be possibility. If someone on the call does know, please share it in the chat. Matt might know, and if there is a change in that, I'm not aware of anything, or we would have already been sharing it probably.
We do get a related question a lot, Don, about placards on trucks. Now that it's flammable, do you need placards? And I think any word on that? Any change on that?
Yeah, so in the service trucks, there was a lot of, I don't know if I should want to say rumors. You don't know what you don't know. Going back to that theme again. Okay, we thought maybe some ventilation was going to be needed in the trucks. We thought we were going to need placards. We thought the tanks would have to be upright, and all of that is not true. Okay, we've learned from those now. Again, 444 pounds maximum on your truck, no matter what the flammability is on your truck. Okay, that didn't change. There will be no placards on service vehicles. I'm not talking about big box trucks or semis. So for the wholesalers and distributors that are listening, check with your drivers and what have you. That's apples and oranges. But on the service trucks, day to day in the trenches, like we used to do, that has not changed. You will not need ventilation, and the tanks will be able to lay horizontally there. So hopefully I answered your question on that. But no, there's no placards of any kind. And that myth is still out there. In fact, I got a text message 30 minutes from one of our reps down south, literally before we went on air today, saying that somebody, an OEM, was spreading to contractors that there was a less refrigerant than 440 pounds, and that's just not true. So double check me on everything. I don't claim to know, we don't claim to know everything, but double check. But those are great questions.
Yeah, very good. A couple things also. Kevin asked a second question I just want to hit real quick. He asked, is there any truth to the rumor that 454B has been outlawed in Europe? Kevin, I know kind of where that question comes from. There's been some back and forth over the past 12 months in Europe about chemicals like this, but the dust has settled, and no, there's no truth to that. So 454B is not outlawed anywhere or anything like that. It had to do with how quickly does it break down, and it breaks down faster than what is required. So it's so no, there's no truth to that rumor, Kevin. Mr. Don, a second question came in from Jeff Craner. He's asking, has the DOT given clear definition yet on transportation or warehousing of A2Ls? I think he just talked a little bit about transportation, but he wants to know about warehousing them. Also, was there any talk of having the SN on the cylinders for the new refrigerants? The serial number on the cylinders? Do you know anything about any cylinders having serial numbers or any kind of tracking device on there? I think that has to do with the refrigerant management that is being proposed.
Yeah, that one would fall under the third step of the AIM Act, Chris. You're exactly right. And
Okay.
and we don't have that information. There's talk of tracking QR codes. There's talk of going to refillable tanks. And when I say talk, it sounds like it's probably going to go in sometime, but it's on the table right now because folks like ACA and Hardy and a couple other organizations in our industry sued them and the EPA, and they won. So the third party of it's the Reclamation Act part of it, and that's on hold right now. It's supposed to be resubmitted, I believe, September of this year, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I know it's in September. I'm not sure of the date. I can't remember the first part of your question as far as, the storage and warehousing is, and Chris, you can chime in here too, is if you go to AHRI's website, or if you like the easy button like I do, Google AHR storage A2Ls. Just put those three things in there in the search engine, and it'll pop up this beautiful trifold colored information from the AHRI. Now, the only problem with that is that's what their recommended is, but I don't think it's been implemented out in all the different districts, states, counties, municipalities, and all those kind of things. Do you have anything to add to that, Chris? I know they're working on getting that down. At the end of the day, it's going to be your local jurisdiction is going to have the final say, but I'll hand that over to you, Chris.
Yeah, that's a real fun topic, and we've been talking about that a lot over here for the past few months. Essentially, I see the IMC and the UMC have updated their 2024 versions of model codes, right, to store A2L refrigerants. They've put in verbiage in there for A2L refrigerants. It's a 1B gas, right? So it's before the 2024 version, 2023 and older, it was either flammable or not flammable. It either goes boom or it doesn't go boom. And so now with A2Ls, they have this section in there that's specific to A2L refrigerants, A2L gases. And so the issue is that IMC and UMC 2024 versions are live, they're ready to go, but your state in particular may not yet have adopted the 2024 version. In fact, I believe there's only 7 states so far in the US that have adopted 2024 version of IMC, UMC, and like NFPA 1, all that stuff. So what's happening right now is at the local level, the fire marshals need to approve the storage of A2Ls. And all the fire marshals understand like the concept of A2L refrigerants. They get the concept, right? If you guys are selling acetylene torches, your fire marshal knows about it, right? So your fire marshal is engaged with whatever kind of business you have with storing flammable compressed gases. And so this conversation is not strange to them. It's just something new that we have to deal with, and until your state adopts these 2024 codes. But like I'm saying, if your fire marshal has resources, we have some resources we can help the fire marshal out with. But essentially, the fire marshal just needs to recognize the 2024 model codes have adopted A2Ls, and they've provided guidance on how to do it. And if what your facility is doing matches what's in the 2024 model codes, then they should be able to sign off on it. But really, this is going to be a local issue until your state adopts the 2024 model codes.
Yeah. And just to elaborate a little bit on that, so and Chris did a great way of explaining that, but just on a very layman's terms is we can ship, or you can ship, equipment in any state right now. That wasn't the case 2 years ago. So all the state have got it in their legislation,
Yep.
but some of them haven't updated. Some of those code books, like I'm under the IMC, for example, under my journeyman's license, they don't update for like every 4 years or so. So some of them aren't in the code books actually at this point. But again, as Chris said, at the end of the day, if you're not under codes and you're way outside the city or somewhere, it may be just your local fire department. I mean, that's that it's going to be your local jurisdictions, as codes always are for your whatever that looks like to you guys. So great answer there, Chris.
Good deal. Let's see, we keep getting lots of good questions coming in, so I appreciate everybody's participation. Let's see, the next one is from Alicia Owens, and her question is, where can we find refrigerant reverse valves? I'm not sure if she means a reverse valve or if she means like the adapter, left-hand, right-hand adapter. Yeah. But can you answer both ways?
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I think what she's talking about is the left-hand adapter.
Okay.
For those. So you'll have an adapter. Great question, by the way. So as everyone knows, and we'll talk about this on another topic too, but great question. So we are going with left-hand threads. And when I say we as an industry, okay?
Right.
Real quick story on that. Tool manufacturers didn't want to go with left-hand threads, okay? They would have to change dies and retool up every time they make a part or a piece for something that's already out there, with gauges, whatever like that. So we decided to go with a adapter, which is the least path resistance, okay? It will slide on to your tanks. I recommend you keep it on your tank so you don't lose it once it's on there. It comes with a Schrader. You can either remove that or keep it in there, whatever that looks like to you. And it is going to convert it back to right-hand threads. And I know that sounds a little silly. Well, why would you put a left-hand adapter on the tank if they can convert it right back to right-hand? Well, two things. It's going to send a flag up along with the red stripe or red ribbon around the tank. So as I always say in class, and I've shared this with Chris, is, there's new contractors, technicians starting every day in the field, especially this time of year with all the heat. They may get removed from preventive maintenance overnight to running service calls because they're behind 50 calls. It happened to me when I was younger. It happens to my son every day. It's the life we live in, right? The hope is that if somebody goes out there and grabs an A2L tank and didn't go to training like you're going to today, and they go to put their hoses on there, they're going to have to stop and make that call to either the wholesaler, their service manager, or a friend they trust and say, hey, don't get me fired, but my hoses aren't going on this tank. Stop right there. Does it have a red ribbon around it? Yes, it does. And that comes from my heart. That's just real world, okay?
Yeah.
So that's one thing, because, back in the day, I know for a fact, people have grabbed closely resembling pink tanks and started to put the wrong refrigerant in. Okay. I won't say how I know that, but I'll leave it at that, okay?
That's funny. All right, good answer.
You can get those almost in all the wholesalers. They're out there. I don't know anybody that's not carrying them, but if you find somebody or you don't have them in your branch, get a hold of us afterwards, okay? You can reach me or Chris or anyone, don.gillis@chemours.com, and we will get you in the right direction, okay? I hope that answered your question.
Good deal. A little bit more just information that people seem to find helpful is that the thing looks just like a mini split adapter, right? Mini splits use that 5/16 to 1/4 inch. It looks just like it, right? So anywhere you would get one of those mini split adapters, it's going to have these A12 adapters. So we've seen pricing on them between $8 and $15. So that's generally the ballpark of those things. Alrighty. Okay, Mr. Derek Owens asked a good question. And we actually get questions like this a little bit more. It has to do with like, am I going to keep my eyebrows or not? Is the top of my building going to blow up or not? So Derek's question is, what is the hazard of a high pressure leak? Let's say someone put a screw through a condenser, right? So it could be a condenser, it could be a line set, it could be anything, right? So what are they looking at, Don?
Yeah. So first off, a great question, Derek, and I'm with you because I am a person that has burned his eyebrows off converting a furnace over, had my face up too close, and if you're chuckling out there and you've converted a furnace over, you're up in the burner area, it happens, and it happens a lot. It's catches and ignites and it poofs back at you, and it's just something you deal with. But so here's how I want you to think about that is. They don't throw anything out there they haven't tested for a long time. Okay, at my prior job, we tested those equipments out in the field for years and years. They do the same thing with refrigerants. They're tested out in compressors to make sure that they're not going to break reeds. We know for a fact from OEMs telling us this, that they've had equipment out there for 5 years. Now, fast forward, okay, let's go back to that flame testing thing we talked about. We need oxygen. We need a large concentration of the 454B. We'll use that as the example. So what's going to happen here is once that pierces anything, the refrigerant expands. Even if it was to catch, it would add more air and put itself out. Okay, is the best way I can explain that to you. So you're only going to be you're only going to have so many pounds that allows for that application. Okay, and normally, in like a split system or an air conditioning heat pump, at least when I was still installing up until 8 years ago, 15 foot with a charge, which includes your evaporators, usually what comes with the system. So great question. And therefore, that's the reason this sensor is going to go off at 20% LFL. So it's not even close to LFL. And in order to be flammable, it has to hit LFL, right? So the idea of that is if let's say it's an air handler and it has heat strips on, it's the winter. And for whatever reason, you pop a leak inside on the coil, okay? It's going to disperse that air, but it's also going to shut that heat strips off. If it's a fossil fuel or a gas furnace, it's going to cut the gas valve out. It starts at letter G, like we said, energizes fan. It's going to run for a certain length of time. We can't speak for all the OEMs. Let's just say for the sake of not arguing, it runs 10 minutes. But the purpose of that fan running is distribute that concentration, that 20% LFL, even with less concentration, more air, and then splitting it up in the home. So it's not even close to being flammable. So it's a great question. We've all talked about this many a times, and I get a lot of those questions when I'm out in the field. But when you add that air, more air to it, whether it's high pressure or low pressure, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah, great answer. Thanks a lot. There's probably one of the questions that I get that's related to this is, okay, what scenario am I really looking at a problem in? And on one of the slides that we have, it talks about how many grams per cubic meters, in order to get a flammable concentration. It's the LFL thing, right? So if you guys out in the audience, right, if you put your arms 40 inches apart, that's about a meter, right? 40 inches wide, 40 inches deep, 40 inches tall, that's a cubic meter. And so for 454B, you would need to vent 300 grams, which is almost 10, which is 10 and a half ounces, right? It's almost a beer can full of refrigerant into that 40 inch by 40 inch by 40 inch. That is a large amount of refrigerant into a very small space in order to even get a flammable concentration. Well, the reason that I use that one as an example is because when you talk about your air handler, let's say that there is a leak, and let's say there's power to the system. Well, then it's going to do what Don was just talking about. The sniffers are going to sense that there's a refrigerant in there, and it's going to turn on that fan, and it's going to blow that refrigerant out of there. So your worst case scenario for your contractors is going to be an air handler that has a leak that does not have power running to it. So that's a rare circumstance, but if you were to get into that situation, you probably don't want to go in there and check it with a cigarette lighter. You know what I mean? You want to open that air handler and you want to, stick your sniffer in there. You want to make sure that you're not walking into a concentration that potentially could ignite, right? So that's really kind of the situation that you'd be looking at in a real world application. If you're outside and there's a leak, I mean, that stuff's just going to vent out anyway. If you're line set, there's plenty of places for the gas to go. So it's really just that air handler. If there's no power running to it, just exercise, more caution, essentially.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, we had a video that shows this. We did in real time with fire trucks on the property outside the building, lighting the refrigerant in like a convenience store setting, and it was very, very small, and it was high pressure leak. Okay, they compared that to propane. Again, I'm not trying to beat propane up, but in those applications, those smaller applications where you only need like 150 grams of propane, that's getting a lot of traction in that area, those smaller reach-in coolers and those kind of things. So, but it literally was night and day. Okay. The other thing I'll share with you that we don't advocate, but there's a ton of videos out there, some of them actually from education institutes, that show them trying to light the A2Ls right out of the tank. Some people are trying to do it right out of an aerosol can. Again, don't try this at home. I don't recommend it. I don't show those videos. But if you want to see what it looks like, there's been a ton of them out there, and for a very long time, actually. I'm not saying it's impossible. Obviously, there's a safety features there for a reason, but it's really, really hard to do. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Perfecto. That's a very good one. Thanks a lot. Let's see. So there's something here from Gordon McKinney. I wasn't sure if it was a question, but it looks like a contribution to the question about materials of trade and what you can transport and stuff like that. So Gordon's comment is, under the Department of Trade's Materials of Trades, Department of Transportation Materials of Trades, exemption to hazmat allows contractors to haul up to 440 pounds, like you were saying, Don, of A2L refrigerants in their trucks in cylinders, and no cylinder can weigh more than 220 pounds. Yeah.
That's great. Good job, Gordon. Yeah, thank you. Gordon was actually the one reaching out earlier that couldn't get in the thing. That's Matt's dad. But anyways,
oh, nice.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So and I always say that the class is, it's not 440 pounds in one tank, but that's good to know that 220. I did not know that. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you, Gordon.
Good deal. Now, just as a note, with the products that we sell, the service cylinder, the DAC, right? That's going to be a 20-pound cylinder. So we're talking about, moving 22 of those, right? So if you're moving 22 DACs, that's more than half a pallet. You probably are bringing them to another branch. You probably are. It's not a service material of trade at that point, right? So it's a pretty reasonable amount. That 440 pounds. It's hard to get up to that without knowing you're transporting. Let's see. That is what I have right now for questions from y'all, but we got about 5 minutes left. I was wondering if I could throw 2 more poll questions out at the audience. If it's possible, then maybe our production staff, yes, our production staff has put one up there. Has your branch started to conduct A2L training yet? This is important to us. It's important to us to see where are you guys at? Like, what's your activity right now? So part of this, and you guys may not know, while you guys are hitting the yes or no button on here, I'll just toss in there. Part of this transition, as governed by the by UL listing, the UL standards for the equipment, is that the equipment manufacturers have to provide training. And so not only are a lot of them doing online training, like Carrier's doing a really good one, Lennox has a really good one, all the OEMs, they have to do some kind of training, right? So either it's online or they're going around and doing their own A2L training. So are they doing it at your branch? Are you conducting your own? This is all good information. What's the state of the industry right now?
Yeah, we didn't touch on that, and I only showed the one slide that showed our information. But
wow,
what I do want to say is on that, if you don't mind, Chris, is no matter who you get your training from, get trained. Okay, offer training. You and I all know. Okay, I've spent a lot of hours at the counter of wholesaler distributors. That's where you learn a lot of your information, as we all know. That's the purpose of this training. I mean, you're the first boots on the ground, right? So
Yeah.
just get something, but take it from a reliable source. There's still a lot of bad information out there, and maybe it's by accident, maybe it's just they don't know. But make sure you're getting it from someone that really knows. A refrigerant manufacturer. I'm not going to start dropping names on all the people out there, but we've Chris and I and several others internally have helped certain organizations that you all know set up their A2L testing and their program, or at least was another set of eyes to make sure it looked correct. Okay, so get it from a good resource, and however you do it, but get them trained. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. As this next question comes up, do you feel contractors are ready for A2L equipment? This is an interesting one, right? Are people just not talking about it? Are they looking down at their feet when they start hearing the word A2L? That kind of thing. Now, while you guys are answering about that, Don, let me toss this little piece of information over to you.
Yeah.
The poll that we just did about their own training, over 70% of them said yes, they're doing their own training.
Awesome. I heard through the grapevine Friday, I had lunch with one of our reps that represents our product, not one of our sales, but one of our sales reps from outside the organization. We had lunch, and he talked about that, and he said, hey, you know, my branch or distribution, he's in the Ohio area, said that they were pulling back, that he didn't have a lot of training. And what he told me was, a fun fact is, a lot of the folks like the OEMs are doing internal training. They've got training on their websites. They're doing in-house training from people that maybe set in Chris's training or my training or anyone's training. So they've taken upon themselves now. They're educated, and they're spreading the word and helping us out and everyone in the industry with more boots on the ground. So that's great. And that's the hope of this training, right, Chris?
Yep. Now, some results, we can watch the lab results, and this is it's got me interested, right? Total reversal, 71% have said no, contractors are not ready. So they're doing their own training. 71% are doing their own training. 71% said there's a reason we're doing training. So that's very good for us to know. It's good for us to get a pulse, check the pulse of the industry. So that's really great.
That's a very interesting one. They're not ready for the equipment, but they've been doing a lot of training. And I would agree with the training part of it. Even though we're packed, and I mean 24, a small class, up to, I've done as many, almost 247 in one place. And that doesn't even include the big events like the ESCOs and all the bigger events. But yeah, I definitely believe that, because unfortunately, just the way I grew up in a mom and pop Lennox dealership, and I shouldn't have dropped that name, but we were a small company, and not a lot of times, and I know some of you can relate with this, because a lot of times people that work at the distribution, they started in the field, they got that job afterwards, is we couldn't afford to take people out of the field, especially in July and August when you're making money, right? So you didn't get an opportunity to go to training a lot of times, or when it was really cold. So unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that either decide they don't need training, or they're not able to pull themselves out of the field, which I'm not trying to justify. I just know it's a fact out there. So whatever you can do to make it easier for them to get training, or a flyer that says, hey, we have an LMS on our website, go to it, or whatever that is, whatever you're doing. And maybe it's scheduling, maybe it has to be done at night, I don't know. But thanks for the feedback on that.
Yeah, thank you very much, you guys. Let's see. Well, we're pretty much at time. We've done a very good job. Let's see. We have the list of all the attendees that we've got. We've got a random number generator. So what we're going to do for the pizza party is we're going to pull out the random number generator. We're going to go back through the list, and we're going to go of the people who showed up, and the number that matches the random generator, we're going to reach out to you, and we'll talk pizza. And then by this time next month, by the next training, we'll have already done that, that kind of thing. And we may even feature a picture of you if you take pictures of your pizza party. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, everybody. I think we're just about good. Don, thank you for all your time and effort, man.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for coming as always, and I want to thank the people behind the scenes. You can't see them, you can't hear them, but they did a good part of the work. Nikki and Corey behind the scenes. Thank you so much for doing that. The other thing is Be thinking about the next episode. Bring your favorite food with you. And Chris, I want to follow up on this oyster thing. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye.
All right. Thanks, y'all.